You really hear is yourself breathing. Otherwise, there's no sound, and it's just a very tranquil time.
At this point in time, we hold the only research permit for Jacob's Well.
Jacob's Well looks like a peaceful swimming hole with crystal clear blue-green water that attracts visitors from all over Texas. For generations, people have jumped into its cool waters without knowing what lies far below the surface. But when a team of expert divers finally reached the deepest known sections of Jacob's Well, they discovered something far more mysterious than anyone expected. Hidden chambers, ancient human remains, strange markings
of the swimming hole that they're swimming in. It's a difficult cave to dive. Without the proper training, it could be deadly.
And a vast underground cave system changed everything scientists thought they knew about this famous spring. So what exactly did the divers find at the bottom of Jacob's Well that left even experts stunned? Join us to find out. Jacob's Well. This is one of the most beautiful natural places in the state of Texas. Hidden near the small town of Wimberley in Hays County, this stunning spring has attracted visitors for many generations. Its beauty is so striking that many people find it hard to believe such a place exists in the heart of Central Texas. The spring is a natural artesian well, meaning water rises from deep underground and flows to the surface on its own. The water is famous for its amazing blue-green color. It looks almost unreal, like something from a tropical island or a picture in a travel magazine. The clear water shines brightly under the Texas sun, creating a view that leaves a lasting impression on everyone who visits. One of the most remarkable things about Jacob's Well is its steady water temperature. Even during the hottest months of the year, the water remains cool and refreshing. It stays at about 68 degrees Fahrenheit all year long. This makes it a perfect place for people looking to escape the intense Texas heat. At the center of the swimming area is the opening of the well itself. The mouth of the well is located at the bottom of a shallow pool. It forms a nearly perfect circle in the limestone and measures about 12 feet across. When people swim above it, they can look down and see the rocky walls stretching deep below the surface. The opening slowly fades into a mysterious blue darkness that seems to continue far underground. For many years, Jacob's Well has been a favorite gathering place for local residents. Teenagers have spent generations swimming there and jumping from the nearby rock ledges into the cool water below. These visits became a special tradition, passed from one generation to the next. For many families, a trip to Jacob's Well was an important part of growing up in the area. The name Jacob's Well appeared in written records as early as the year 1850. Long before settlers arrived, however, indigenous peoples had known about the spring for thousands of years. Among them were the Tonkawa people, who lived throughout this region of Texas. The Tonkawa viewed springs like Jacob's Well with great respect. While later settlers often dismissed such beliefs, the Tonkawa treated the site differently. They avoided swimming in the spring and stayed away from it during the night. Stories passed down through generations describe the spring as more than a source of water. It was seen as an entrance to something beyond the ordinary world. Exactly what that entrance led to was never clearly recorded, and much of that knowledge was lost over time. But it had secrets, so stay with us to uncover them. The hidden tragedies beneath Jacob's Well. This is the point where the peaceful and beautiful image of Jacob's Well begins to change. From the surface, it looks like a perfect natural spring. The clear blue-green water, the cool temperature, and the stunning scenery make it seem calm and welcoming. Yet beneath that beauty lies a world that has challenged even the most skilled explorers. The opening of Jacob's Well measures about 12 feet across, but what can be seen from above is only a small part of the story. Below the surface, the well drops straight down for about 30 feet before opening into a series of underwater cave chambers. These chambers stretch through the rock in a complex network of passages. Some sections become narrow, others widen unexpectedly, and many twist in different directions before narrowing once again. These underwater caves are not easy to explore. Even experienced divers consider them extremely dangerous. Cave diving is already known as one of the riskiest activities in the world. Unlike open water diving, there is no direct path to the surface. A small mistake can quickly become a serious problem. In such an environment, there is very little room for error. Over the years, Jacob's Well has been connected to at least 8 confirmed deaths since the year 1980. 8 people entered the water and never returned safely. The youngest was in his 20s. Some of those who lost their lives were trained and certified divers. They understood the dangers involved and knew the challenges that underwater caves could present. Even so, they chose to explore the mysterious passages below. Their decision shows just how powerful the attraction of Jacob's Well has always been. Many people wanted to understand what lay hidden beneath the surface. At the same time, the tragic outcomes reveal how dangerous the cave system can be. Official investigations pointed to several possible causes for these accidents. One common factor was disturbed silt. When silt is stirred up inside an underwater cave, visibility can disappear almost instantly. A diver who could see clearly one moment may suddenly find themselves surrounded by darkness. Equipment problems also played a role in some cases. Inside narrow passages, even a minor malfunction can become much more serious. Other reports suggested that divers became confused within the maze-like cave system. Unable to find the correct route, some eventually ran out of air before reaching safety. These explanations were considered reasonable and matched many accidents that had happened in underwater caves around the world. Investigators reviewed the evidence and closed the cases based on those findings. However, divers who successfully returned from Jacob's Well often spoke about another unusual detail. They reported that the water current inside the cave behaved in unexpected ways. Normally, in a natural artesian spring, water flows upward from underground. A diver would usually expect to feel a gentle push toward the surface while moving deeper into the system. At Jacob's Well, some divers reported something very different. According to their observations, certain sections of the cave seemed to have reversing currents. Instead of helping them move outward, the water appeared to pull them farther into the passageways. Some divers said the direction of the flow changed without any clear connection to weather conditions or seasonal changes. Several described moments when the current seemed to work directly against their efforts to leave the cave. They felt the water pulling deeper into the system rather than guiding them back toward the entrance. These experiences were carefully noted in dive records and discussed among members of the Texas cave diving community. Still, no one could fully explain why this was happening. Without a complete exploration of the cave system, there was not enough evidence to provide clear answers. The reports remained an interesting but unresolved part of the well's history. To understand the mystery, experts eventually focused on the rock beneath the spring. Jacob's Well is located within the Edwards Plateau, a huge region made up of limestone formed millions of years ago. Over long periods of time, slightly acidic water slowly dissolved parts of the rock. As water moved through cracks, it widened them and created tunnels, chambers, and hidden caverns beneath the ground. This type of landscape is known as karst terrain. It often contains large underground spaces that cannot be seen from the surface. Scientists already knew that Jacob's Well connected to a much larger cave network beneath the Texas Hill Country. These underground passages supplied water to the spring and connected to the vast Edwards Aquifer system. This aquifer provides fresh water for millions of people and is one of the most important water sources in the United States. The divers who went deeper. The story of serious exploration inside Jacob's Well began many years ago. While visitors enjoyed the beauty of the spring above the surface, a small group of skilled divers became curious about what existed far below. They wanted to understand the hidden world beneath the clear blue-green water and discover how deep the mysterious cave system truly extended. During the 1970s, recreational scuba diving became more popular across the United States. As more people gained advanced diving skills, a few experienced divers decided to investigate the passages inside Jacob's Well. These early explorers entered the spring, carefully descended into the darkness, and began documenting what they found. Their first discoveries were important. They successfully mapped the first chamber beneath the well and confirmed that the cave system continued beyond it. However, these dives were not easy. Some divers returned to the surface after facing extremely difficult conditions. Even at that early stage, it became clear that Jacob's Well was far more challenging than it appeared from above. As the years passed, underwater cave diving continued to develop. By the 1980s and 1990s, it had become a highly specialized field with its own training methods, safety rules, and advanced equipment. Divers who earned certifications in cave diving began exploring deeper parts of Jacob's Well. These skilled explorers gradually mapped what became known as the 4 chambers of Jacob's Well. The chambers formed a connected series of spaces hidden within the limestone below the spring. The route leading through them was far from simple. Some sections narrowed so much that divers could barely fit through, while other areas suddenly opened into larger underground spaces. The first chamber was located about 30 feet below the surface. From there, the passage continued downward to a second chamber at roughly 50 feet. The third chamber reached a depth of about 80 feet. Beyond that was the fourth chamber, deeper than the others and surrounded by growing uncertainty. Many experienced cave divers reached the fourth chamber. However, most decided to turn back rather than continue farther. The reason was simple. The passage beyond became extremely difficult and intimidating, even for professionals with years of experience. The tunnel narrowed to such a degree that divers sometimes had to remove parts of their equipment to squeeze through. The rock walls seemed to press inward from every direction. Movement became slow and careful. A single mistake could create serious problems. The cave floor presented another challenge. Fine layers of silt covered the bottom. When disturbed by a diver's movement, the silt quickly spread through the water. Within seconds, clear visibility could disappear completely. What had been an open passage suddenly became a dark and confusing environment where it was impossible to see even a short distance ahead.
Jacob's Well, a popular swimming hole near Wimberley, will remain closed to swimmers for the foreseeable future.
And Hays County officials say water conditions are not.
Then there was the current. Many divers reported unusual water movement inside the cave system. At times, the current behaved in ways that seemed difficult to explain. Instead of moving as expected, it appeared to change direction in certain areas. This strange behavior became one of the most discussed mysteries among divers familiar with Jacob's Well. One highly experienced diver, who had completed more than 300 cave dives, recorded an unusual observation after one of his explorations. He explained that he did not turn back because of equipment failure or poor visibility. Instead, he experienced a powerful feeling that the passage ahead was not a place he should continue exploring. He understood that such a feeling was not scientific evidence. Even so, he believed it was important enough to record in his notes. Over time, other experienced divers reported similar impressions. Although these accounts could not be measured or tested, the repeated descriptions caught the attention of researchers. Years later, these dive records helped inspire a major expedition that took place during the spring of 2023. The team involved was not made up of people seeking excitement or internet attention. Instead, it consisted of highly trained specialists with extensive experience in underwater cave exploration. Every member had advanced qualifications and years of professional work behind them. The group included technical cave divers trained to the highest recognized levels. Alongside them were experts from several scientific fields. A hydrologist joined the expedition to study underground water systems. An underwater archaeologist participated as part of the research effort. The team also included a cave mapping specialist who had previously worked on major underwater cave surveys in Mexico. The equipment used during the expedition represented some of the most advanced technology available. Divers carried rebreather systems that recycled breathing gases, allowing longer dive times. Multiple lighting systems were used because reliable light is essential inside underwater caves. They also brought underwater propulsion vehicles to help move through longer passages while conserving energy. High-definition camera systems were included to record areas that were difficult to access. In addition, modern sonar mapping equipment allowed the team to create detailed three-dimensional images of the cave structure as they explored. Before entering the water, the expedition spent 3 full days preparing. They measured water flow, recorded current conditions, and collected samples from different depths. The team also studied every available dive record from previous explorers. Using this information, they created the most complete map of Jacob's Well ever assembled. Known sections were carefully documented, while the area beyond the fourth chamber remained marked with a single word: unknown. Finally, on the fourth day, the first dive team entered the water. The initial stages of the dive unfolded exactly as expected. The first and second chambers matched earlier maps and observations. These sections presented no major surprises for divers with such advanced training. The third chamber, however, revealed something unusual. The limestone walls displayed long horizontal markings at the same height throughout the passage. These marks circled the tunnel like rings left behind by ancient water levels. They appeared old, deep, and unlike anything modern divers could have created. The team noticed the strange formations and carefully documented them. At that moment, they were unsure of their meaning, and this was where changes began to appear. Let's dive deeper. What the cameras saw. Everything changed once the expedition team moved beyond the fourth chamber of Jacob's Well. For decades, this was the point where most divers stopped. The narrow passage ahead had earned a frightening reputation among experienced cave explorers. Many reached it, examined the tight opening, and decided it was too dangerous to continue. The risks were simply too great. The team that entered the cave during the 2023 expedition came prepared with some of the most advanced equipment available. Even with modern technology, passing through the narrow section was incredibly difficult. The opening was tight, uncomfortable, and intimidating. Every movement had to be carefully controlled. One member of the team later admitted that he came closer to turning back there than on almost any other dive of his career. This was a diver who had explored some of the most famous underwater cave systems in the world. Yet this small passage inside Jacob's Well tested his confidence like few places ever had. Despite the challenge, the team successfully moved through the restriction. What they discovered on the other side surprised everyone. Based on existing maps and earlier explorations, researchers expected another chamber similar to those already documented. Instead, the cave suddenly opened into a space far larger than anyone had imagined. The sonar equipment immediately detected something unusual. As the readings appeared on the instruments, the team paused to study them. At first, they struggled to believe what they were seeing. Beyond the narrow passage was a massive underground chamber. It was much larger than any of the 4 chambers previously known inside Jacob's Well. The ceiling stretched high above them, forming a huge arching space hidden beneath the Texas landscape. Measurements showed that the ceiling rose more than 40 feet above the cave floor. The size of the chamber alone was remarkable, but the floor presented another surprise. Instead of solid limestone, the bottom consisted of deep layers of sediment. Years, centuries, and perhaps much longer had allowed material to collect there. The instruments suggested that the sediment extended farther downward than the team could accurately measure with the equipment available during the expedition. The walls of the chamber revealed even more clues about its history. They were covered with mineral formations created over long periods of time. These natural structures included formations commonly found in caves. Their presence suggested that the chamber had once existed in a dry environment before becoming flooded. This discovery was important because such formations usually develop when water is absent. At some point in the distant past, the chamber may have remained dry for a very long time before underground water filled the space. The deeper the team explored, the more questions emerged. Then the cameras recorded something nobody expected. Resting on the floor of the chamber were skeletal remains. The discovery immediately became one of the most significant moments of the expedition. The underwater archaeologist accompanying the team carefully examined the area while documenting everything on video. His first assessment suggested that the remains represented at least 4 separate individuals. The condition of the bones indicated that they were not recent. Mineral deposits had formed on them over time, suggesting considerable age. Some remains were partially buried within the sediment covering the chamber floor. Others appeared to be associated with material that may once have been organic in nature. At that stage, the exact age of the remains could not be determined. Additional scientific analysis would be necessary before any conclusions could be reached. One detail stood out immediately. The remains showed no obvious connection to modern diving activity. They did not appear to belong to divers lost in recent decades. The visible mineralization suggested something much older. The arrangement of the remains also attracted attention. Rather than being scattered randomly throughout the chamber, the bones appeared grouped together. Their positioning did not seem consistent with bodies simply being carried into the area by moving water. Instead, they appeared clustered in a way that suggested they had arrived together or had been placed in the same location under circumstances that were not random. While researchers continued documenting the site, another important discovery was made. At the deepest point reached during the expedition, approximately 140 feet below the surface, the team deployed specialized instruments to study water movement inside the cave. The results provided an answer to a mystery that had puzzled divers for many years. Measurements revealed evidence of a second network of water passages beneath the chamber. Strong water flow was detected moving sideways through hidden conduits below the cave floor. These deeper passages were inaccessible to divers, but the instruments clearly showed their presence. This discovery helped explain the strange current reversals reported throughout the history of Jacob's Well exploration. Changes in pressure within the larger aquifer system could force water through these hidden conduits, altering current patterns inside the cave. What had once seemed mysterious now had a scientific explanation. Jacob's Well was not simply a spring. It was part of an extremely complex underground hydraulic network with multiple levels of water movement operating beneath the surface. Yet, the expedition was not finished. Before beginning their return to the surface, the team noticed something unusual on the far wall of the giant chamber. Approximately 8 feet above the sediment floor, the cameras recorded a series of markings in the limestone. The lines appeared deliberate and repeated. They formed recognizable patterns rather than random shapes created by natural processes. They also looked different from anything modern divers might have left behind. The underwater archaeologist spent a long time documenting the markings. He carefully recorded every visible detail while remaining cautious about drawing conclusions. At the time, no one could determine exactly when the markings were made or who might have created them. Proper scientific analysis would be required before any reliable answers could be given. Even so, the discovery left a powerful impression on everyone involved. How scientists responded. After the expedition ended, the work was far from over. Researchers spent many months studying the information collected deep inside Jacob's Well. Every video recording, measurement, and sample had to be carefully examined before any conclusions could be reached. Because of the importance of the discoveries, scientists wanted to make sure their findings were accurate. The process required patience and detailed analysis. Only after this work was completed did the scientific community begin sharing its response. The first results to attract widespread attention involved the underground water system. These findings were considered the most straightforward and immediately useful. Scientists confirmed the existence of a deep secondary network of water passages beneath Jacob's Well. This hidden system helped explain many of the unusual water movements that divers had reported over the years. Researchers believed the discovery would improve understanding of how water travels through this part of the Edwards Aquifer. It was a major step forward in studying the region's underground environment. Hydrologists who reviewed the data quickly recognized the importance of the findings. The newly identified pathways showed that water could move through areas that had never been mapped before. Because of this, scientists noted that contaminants could potentially travel through parts of the system in ways previously unknown. This possibility carried serious implications for water management and environmental protection. Millions of people depend on water connected to the aquifer system. Understanding these hidden routes could help improve future planning and resource protection efforts. The geological discoveries also attracted significant interest. Researchers studied the large underground chamber that had been revealed beyond the fourth chamber. The mineral formations covering its walls provided valuable clues about the chamber's history. These formations could only have developed in open air rather than underwater. This meant the chamber had once existed above the water table before eventually becoming flooded. The evidence supported what the expedition team had suspected during their exploration. Based on the condition of the formations and the changes they experienced after becoming submerged, scientists developed an estimated timeline. Their analysis suggested that the chamber was last dry between 8,000 and 12,000 years ago. This period followed the end of the last ice age, when climate conditions were changing and water levels shifted across the region. During that time, landscapes throughout the Edwards Plateau looked very different from today. Water systems expanded and contracted as the environment adapted to changing conditions. The chamber's history appeared to reflect those ancient changes. This timeline became especially important for another reason. If the chamber was dry during that period, it may have been physically accessible. Researchers noted that human activity is known to have existed throughout the Texas Hill Country during the same general era. As a result, scientists considered the possibility that people could have entered parts of the cave system long before recorded history. While no final conclusions were reached, the timing made the discovery particularly interesting. It opened the door to new questions about the region's distant past. The analysis of the skeletal remains continued under careful supervision. Small samples were removed using procedures approved by state authorities responsible for protecting historical resources. Early findings confirmed that the remains were human and ancient. Researchers also determined that they were older than the period of European arrival in the region. Beyond these initial conclusions, scientists remained cautious about making additional statements. They wanted complete laboratory results before discussing further details. But everyone overlooked the main issue. Let's dive in. The terrifying question. Of everything discovered during the exploration of Jacob's Well, one question continues to stand above all the others. It is not the ancient bones found deep inside the cave. It is not the strange markings on the walls. It is not even the unusual water currents that puzzled divers for decades. Those discoveries are fascinating and important, but they are also things that science may eventually explain. The harder question is much simpler and much closer to the surface. Today, Jacob's Well remains a popular swimming destination. On warm weekends, visitors continue to gather around the beautiful spring. Families come to enjoy the clear water and peaceful surroundings. Children splash in the swimming area, while others jump from nearby rocks into the cool water below. Many visitors admire the stunning blue-green color without ever thinking about what lies underneath. For most people, it appears to be nothing more than a beautiful place to spend a summer afternoon. Yet, beneath that inviting surface is a very different world. Deep below the swimming hole sits the narrow opening that leads into a vast underground cave system. Many visitors look down into the darkness without realizing how far the passages extend. Curiosity naturally draws people toward mysteries they cannot fully see. The opening appears small and harmless from above, but the discoveries made during the recent expedition revealed a much more complicated reality. What exists below is far larger and more complex than most people imagine. The site is managed by local authorities and operates under a permit system. Visitor numbers are limited, and safety rules have been introduced over the years. Diving into the underwater cave system is restricted to properly trained and certified individuals. Officials have also taken steps to protect both visitors and the natural environment.
Revealing Jacob's Well remains closed as the spring experiences zero flow. So much a pull, but more hole in the ground.
During periods of drought and reduced water levels, swimming has sometimes been suspended. Despite these challenges, the spring continues to welcome visitors throughout much of the year. Jacob's Well remains central to Wimberley's identity and tourism. However, the 2023 expedition confirmed connections to a cave system linked to past deaths, discovered a hidden chamber with ancient human remains, and improved understanding of underground water flows. Despite these findings, deeper sections remain unexplored and only partially mapped. These findings do not automatically provide clear answers about how the site should be managed in the future. Scientists can study the cave, document its features, and explain its behavior. Decisions about public access involve different kinds of questions. They require discussions about safety, responsibility, risk, and public benefit. They also require communities to consider how much information visitors should know before entering the water. These are not easy issues to solve, and reasonable people may reach different conclusions. What makes Jacob's Well so memorable is the contrast between appearance and reality. On the surface, it looks peaceful, refreshing, and welcoming. It represents summer days, clear water, and simple enjoyment. Beneath that beauty, however, lies a network of passages shaped over millions of years. Hidden chambers, ancient remains, and powerful underground forces exist below the water that visitors see every day. The difference between what the spring appears to be and what it actually contains is what continues to capture attention. The divers who explored the deepest known sections of Jacob's Well achieved something remarkable. They expanded human knowledge of the site and revealed features that had remained hidden for countless years. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.